Hey, welcome to Cosi Talks Live. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get tonight started. For those of you watching the replay, as always, give me a shout out in the comment section, comment replay. You can put your question in there. I go back after the show is over and I check to see, any questions that came in, especially from my international folks that are maybe watching from a different time zone. But in the meantime, I am going to go ahead and get things started with Instagram and get that live going. And while I wait for you guys to jump on board, there we go. So we are live on Instagram. And for those of you listening to my podcast, thank you again for doing that. I know the podcast just launched this year and we've had quite a bit of success with getting some nice viewers on board. So thank you for those of you who are watching me on the podcast. Just remember that if you have any questions for me, you can send them to me right at my email, cosi@cositalks.com. All right, I see some people starting to jump on board this evening. Give me a shout out. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and what is in your drink this evening. Hey there, Emily from Central PA. She's got her toasted almond mocha cold brew. Emily, you always have the best drinks, honestly. You really, really make me a little jealous sometimes on Wednesday nights. All right, guys. So tonight it's just us chickens in the house. We're going to be doing general Q&A. We've got already a few questions here that came in from the texting service as well as from the various platforms. So let's see who else is on board this evening. We've got Scott coming in from West Virginia. Scott, I am so excited about getting to meet you at the Amputee Coalition Conference this August. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you. We've got Mark here with his strawberry watermelon water. We're getting all nice and fancy there. We got Richard from Arizona. Whoops, AR. Oh my gosh. You think I would know this. Arizona is AZ. AR is Arkansas. Oh, sorry about that, Richard. We've got Tondale from Chicago. Tondale, I've got your question that will be ready for tonight that you sent it in. So thank you for that. We've got Brenda coming in from Philadelphia with her Diet Coke. We got another Mark coming in. Here's my other Mark coming in. Thanks for being here, Mark. We've got Harsh coming on board. And Mark coming in from Wisconsin. We got Randy coming here. You've got a lot of things to go. All right, guys, I am calling up one question that I just realized. Give me 1 second. We're going to give you guys another couple of minutes to jump on board. But there was one question I wasn't able to print out on time, so I want to have it ready. Thank you for being patient with me, guys. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. Yes, we are good to go. Let's see on Instagram. We got some people jumping in on Instagram. We got Dusty Decaf, LA Russ 17. We got Casey Grimaldi, Daryl Greer. Lots of folks jumping on board on Instagram. And guys, for those of you who are watching me on the Instagram channel, feel free to put your questions into the comments section as well. So with that being said, I've got like 40 million screens open tonight, and hopefully we're going to keep track of everything. We got Marianne. Hey there. She got ice water, didn't bring anything today. Can't brag at all. Hey, that's okay. We all need those days off, Marianne. Andre, holy smokes. I haven't seen you in a really long time, man. Where have you been? Good to see you here. We got Jeff on board, minor surgery tomorrow. Great, drinking the nasty stuff and a bunch of water. Oh, I think I know what you're drinking, Jeff, and that's never any fun. Hey, Shelly, thank you. I hope you had a good week too. We got Pam coming in from New York. Thanks for joining in, Pam. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. For those of you joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Cosi Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I've been a PT now for over 23 years, and my passion is working with the amputee and limb loss community. So this show is for the amputee community. This show is for you, for amputees, clinicians, caregivers, and family members. So if you've never been on the show before, don't be shy. I do broadcast to Facebook and YouTube and Instagram each week, Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as you can see. And feel free to put your questions into the comment section. I am going to take the questions first that came in through my texting service, and we'll just pop that number up there for real quick. If you have not signed up for my texting service, it's honestly the best way to get in touch with me. And you just need to text Cosi Talks in all caps, just as I'm writing right there. And I will send you links for the show, and you can also text me your questions directly, and I text you back. Hey, James, I'm glad you're watching me while you're at work. Thank you. Hey, Beth, loved reading your message and your article. That is awesome. All right, guys, so let's get started. Let's go with Tondeo. He sent in a question, and I'm going to read it real quick because it's on my other screen. There it is. Okay, Tondeo asks, good afternoon. I'm an AK and was wondering what products I can use to wear or put on my stump to stop it from blistering while wearing my liner throughout the day. All right, I actually haven't done a show on like skincare, just dedicated to skincare in a really long time. I have a lot of those shows recorded and they're on my YouTube channel and they're also in my Facebook video archives. So if you really want like a really full in-depth show on skincare, go there. You will definitely find it. In the meantime, Tondale, skincare is a huge thing for me. It's one of the things that I address a lot with my patients, especially my patients who are diabetics and vascular patients. It's very rare that I get a patient that doesn't need some sort of tweaking with their skincare regimen. And, you know, a large part of that is because you're putting on a liner and a prosthesis right up on your skin for, you know, hours and hours of the day, right? And prior to your amputation, your skin was open to air, right? So a lot of things change when you put something right up against it and keep it there for an entire day. Tondale says, I think I forgot to mention, but I do use the lotion to powder, but after I sweat for a while through the day, it dries, and I guess what causes the blisters. Thank you for telling me that, because yes, that does give me some more information right there. So, you know, the thing is sweat happens, right? And living in Florida here, sweat is just a daily part of our lives, 365 days of the year, especially with a very high humidity factor, right? And with these liners, it can sometimes cause chafing and friction and shearing forces within the liner, which is no bueno, because that's where you get those blisters. All right. So first things first, when it comes to blister care, it's something I tend to be really strict with my patients, and they don't like me for it sometimes. But when there's somebody has a blister, I say all bets are off. You got to take off the liner and not wear it until that blister is nice and closed up. Especially if you're just starting to learn to use your prosthesis, you really want to take care of that skin and make sure that it doesn't turn into an infection. Okay. Especially if you have a history of MRSA, right? Those are things that you just don't want to mess with. And you have to keep the area clean and dry. Okay. Once that blister is healed, it's not that all bets are off and you can start wearing the prosthesis. The key is to figure out why you formed the blister. Now, in your case, Ondale, you've pinpointed it. You sweat a lot, right? And that's causing you friction. For other people, it could be that they're wearing the socket too aggressively, especially if they're first learning how to use the socket. Other people, it might be that they're not putting on enough socks, or they're wearing too many socks, right? The fit of the socket is off, and that's what's causing the blister. In other areas, there may be a pressure point forming, right? Then it may need to be adjusted by the prosthetist. So there's a lot of different things that can cause a blister, and it's really important to try to pinpoint what it is because you want to prevent it. So with the case of sweat, okay, there's a couple of different options. Number one, our bodies are supposed to sweat. That's one of the three ways that we get rid of toxins. We pee, we poo, and we sweat. That's how our body gets rid of toxins, right? So to take away our ability to sweat may not necessarily be a good thing, okay? But if you're someone who has excessive sweat, like if you feel like you're really excessively sweating, and this can sometimes happen with amputees, right? Sometimes when folks have an amputation, they have less surface area to sweat from, right? You're missing a big chunk of your leg, right? So your body might be sweating more from the skin that is left, meaning from your residual limb, okay? Over the course of time, that tends to kind of even out, but for some folks, it does not. Whenever I see somebody who is an excessive sweater, and we've tried all the different conservative methods, then usually I might send them to the dermatologist to get a consult. There are some prescription strength things that can be used, lotions or deodorants that can be used to help prevent sweat. Also, the use of Botox. That's something that a few of you, of my viewers here, have done in using Botox to help reduce sweating. But again, those are like in extreme cases when we've tried all the conservative stuff and it doesn't work. Skin health is really important. So the healthier the skin, the easier it's going to be to take care of it. The skin has to be cleaned at least once every 24 hours. So I tell my amputees, they need to get in the shower and clean that residual limb once every 24 hours, not just a wipe down. In the shower, water and soap going over that skin and really washing off the bacteria and the sweat and the buildup for that day. Same thing goes with the liners, okay? You must clean the liners. And let me see if I got one right here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I didn't have this ready beforehand. When it comes to these, hey, Bob, where'd you going, man? All right. So when it comes to the liners, you must turn it all the way inside out. Okay. And I'll tell my patients, take it in the shower or the bathtub with you and clean it there. Whatever it is that you're using to clean your body with, that's typically my general recommendation as to what to clean the liner with. And then once it's clean, it has to be rinsed a million times, right? You do not want to have any kind of soapy residue left on the liner. You rinse, and you rinse it with as warm as water if you can, not super hot water, because we don't want to damage the integrity of the liner. We don't want to, obviously burn yourself, right? So rinse it, rinse it, rinse it. And when you think you're done, you rinse it again. And then there's a couple of different ways. Some people have that cool little hook to hang the liner to let it air dry. Some people, I just tell them get a broomstick and, just let it air dry this way. Okay. Or actually, excuse me, I actually prefer people to dry it this way so that you don't get dust particles stuck on the liner part. So you can dry it. Okay. And usually you have one liner that's being worn and the other liner that's being dried. Hopefully your prosthetist gave you two liners. In keeping the liner clean, you're going to be reducing the bacteria that's sitting right next to your skin. And it's also going to help reduce that friction, right? Which can then cause the blister. The other thing about the liner is the fit. And this is something that people really don't get. If the liner is too big, there's going to be room for friction, right? And shearing, which causes a blister. If your liner is getting stretched out, same thing. So usually I tell people if it doesn't take you some effort to put the liner on, it might be getting too loose. Because liners, I don't have to tell you guys, liners can be a kind of a pain in the butt to put on because they're snug, right? It kind of takes some elbow grease to get these liners on, right? So if it's not requiring any effort on your part to put it on, it might mean that it's too big or it's getting stretched out and it's time to replace it, okay? The point of the liner is it's supposed to be in complete close contact with your skin. You don't want any air pockets in there because that's going to allow that sweat to really start getting accumulated in there, okay? Let's talk a little bit about products. I'm a huge fan of Vital Fit. Once upon a time, they were sponsors on my show. I still have a wonderful working relationship with them. They are the only products on the market that I know of that they have a comprehensive skincare system specifically made for amputees. And it was designed by a dermatologist. They've been on my show several times. And again, you can watch on the YouTube channel the shows that I did with them where we talked about a lot of the common skin problems and how to take care of them. I'm looking at their travel packet right here. And it's got the cleanser, the moisturizer, the liquid to powder, and the night moisturizer lotion. And I do believe my code is still effective. Cosi 10 is the code, and I believe it's $10 off a purchase of $20 or more. So this costs $20. With my code, you can get it for $10. And I think that's a pretty good deal because you get a sampling of everything and you get to see what works and what you like. What I like about the cleanser is it's really, really gentle. You can use it on your body. You can use it on your liner. And also the daytime moisturizer, it also soaks in quite nicely. Here's something I have to say about moisturizers. Okay, and Tondeo, hopefully I know I'm throwing everything in the kitchen sink with you, but I want to give you as much information as I can. You got to look at your skin, right? Everybody's a little bit different with their skin. If it's the drier months and you tend to have a drier skin, you can try using a thin layer of the moisturizer. It soaks in really quickly. It doesn't leave like a greasy film. And then try your liner. If you feel like it's still kind of too slick during the day, then you know to skip the day moisturizer. Huge fan of their nighttime moisturizer, however. Huge fan. At night, like your skin just needs to be open to air breathing unless you're somebody who wears a shrinker at night, which is totally fine. This nighttime moisturizer is just kind of like that spa treatment for your residual limb skin, and it just keeps it nice and soft and healthy, okay? So here's the thing, Tondeo. I love their liquid to powder. Here's why. It doesn't get gummy. So you know how with some other liquid to powder, I've never used the one from Amputee Store, so I'm not going to bash it because I don't know anything about it. I haven't used it myself or on any of my patients. But I love this liquid to powder because you can put layers on throughout the day and it doesn't get gummy. Love it. Something about their formula of how they did the ratios. Somebody explained it to me once and it went one ear and out the other. But basically, I like this one. I've tested it on my runners, which again, hot, sticky, humid Florida. when I go running with my amputee runners, some of them are like pouring sweat out of their liners. That's how much we sweat here in Florida. So this is really nice. They'll apply it like a lot of my runners, like if they don't want to take off their leg, but they'll apply it around the edges of their liner or their suspension sleeve, and it just prevents that chafing. I'm a runner, even though I'm not an amputee myself, I'm a runner and I use it. Runners chafe. It's what we do. I know, really sexy. But the liquid to powder lotion, it's nice. It's really, really, really nice. So this is what I would recommend. Give it a try. I'm a huge fan of recommending my patients have a dermatologist on their Rolodex. So the same way you need your primary care doctor, you need your prosthetist, you need your physical therapist, you need a dermatologist. Stuff is going to crop up as you use prosthetic devices. Even those of you who are fortunate to have really nice, supple, juicy skin and you have no problems, at some point in your life, you might develop something on your skin and you just need the eyeball of a professional who's dedicated to that. And I've actually had a dermatologist on my show, really wonderful, Dr. Barrios, and there's a show that he did with me and answered some really great questions there. I'm trying to get him back on the show. So if you're watching Dr. Barrios one of these days, you're coming back on my show. Let's see, what do we got? What do we got? Yeah, there's a lot of you here who are fans of the Vital Fit program. Let's see. Hey, Jerry Ann, got your caramel. Ooh, caramel vanilla coffee. I need something more interesting. I just have water tonight. Yeah, Eric says, very important to clean and dry everything. And again, a lot of people, when they come to see me and they have a lot of these skin issues, I'm giving them a lot of this advice, which sounds very basic and it doesn't sound very fancy, but again, the devil's in the details, guys. And if you just kind of address all of these little hints and details, it'll clear up a lot of your issues with skin. Now, obviously there are some folks who have a bit more trouble skin, especially some folks who have vascular issues, some people who experience ingrown hair, or some people who have like invaginations or a lot of scar tissue on their limb, or they may have grafting on their skin, which causes other unique problems. But for the most part, if people take care of their skin, and I mean really on top of it, it can really prevent a lot of problems. I have actually one lady right now, a patient of mine, and she has a pretty significant invagination in her residual limb. Like the residual limb, she's the one who says, she goes, yeah, surgeon, I'm not happy with the job the surgeon did. But her skin is so nice and healthy that she hasn't had any problems. Okay, so it's a real testament to taking care of your skin. Marianne says paper towel holders to dry. I like that idea. Beth said, I've used the Vital Fit skincare problem. Oh my gosh, skincare regimen for 5 years, and it's formulated for amputees. It's cleanser, not soap. Right. And then there's another product out there on the market. It's called the liner wand. Many of you have probably heard of it. It's a special formulated, it's exactly that. It's a little wand that they sell you in a kit, and you paint the inside of your liner. And it's a patented formula they have. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. I know a lot of some of the athletes use it and they don't sweat at all with it. I believe there's a little bit of silver in that, and that helps prevent the antibacterial and helps also with sweat management. But they paint the inside of the liner once a month, I believe it is. And that's it. And it really reduces the amount of sweat. So that one's called the liner wand. And you can look them up on Google. I apologize, I don't have their website on me right now. If anybody does and they want to pop it up there, go ahead. And actually, let me pop up the Vital Fit website for you there as well, Tondeo, so you can kind of, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Here we go. So there's the Vital Fit. Yeah, harsh. Let me know when you use it, because I've heard really great things about the liner wand. And it comes also with a special formulated cleanser as well for the residual limb and the liner. So give it a go. Let me know what you think. I've heard nothing but positive things about it. So yeah, Tondeo, again, grab one of these. You can get it for $10. It's a great travel size. And also, like I said, you can see if you like it or not. And don't feel free not to use, for example, usually the one that, unless somebody has really super dry skin, some people might opt out of using the day moisturizer. And again, just depending on the time of year. But give it a go and let me know what you think, guys. And guys, I really do mean it when I say, let me know what you think. I like to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about everything that's out there on the market, because it helps me make these recommendations. Thank you, Stephen, for putting that out there. Roll Tide. Hey, Andrea, I got your Diet Coke there. There's my resident OT right there. Eric says, I've used Dove soap and it works, and I also have prescription cream for breakouts. Yeah. And again, guys, everybody's skin is different. When I have somebody who's a new amputee, I'm kind of like watching them like a hawk because I want to make sure that we're on top of things. And then over the course of time, the goal is for you to know your skin better than anybody else. And I've had some people come in and they've had a breakout of something, and I'm going, what's that? They're like, oh, it's this. I treat it with this and it's gone in a couple of days. I've already been there, done that. I'm like, okay, good. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. Yeah. And Eric says, my dermatologist prescribed me the cream. Yeah. Susan says, I have a deep invagination and my skin is very healthy. Yeah. And again, guys, those of you who have those invaginations in your residual limb, a lot of it is making sure that you're examining it. So kind of just opening it up and just making sure that there's no blisters, nothing going on the inside. Some people I know, they have to put a little bit of lotion on the inside to prevent it from friction, having friction or shearing in there. Some people, they just leave it alone and they just have to don the liner very carefully. Everybody's a little bit different. Yeah, Jeff says, time for me to order some Vital Fit products, almost out. Yes. And guys, use my code. Feel free to use it. It's there for you. Like, that's what it's there for. Hey there, DJ from North Carolina, a fellow Tar Heel. Very nice to meet you. Thank you for posting that. So Harsh posted the Liner Wand website there. Let's see. Brenda says, I've used Hibistat for my liners for 10 years. Odors gone. Skin looks great, but I was desperate with my invaginations are insane. Yes. And if Hibistat is kind of like the Hibiclens, I have a little caveat about Hibiclens. And again, Brenda, if that's what you use and that's what your team has recommended for you, that's fine. I'm really careful about not recommending things that are too harsh. Anything that's antibacterial, in my opinion, if you don't have problem skin, I generally tend to not recommend antibacterial. And the reason is because it kind of kills off too much. It does too much of a good job of killing off all the bacteria plus the good flora. Right. And we have natural flora on our skin, natural bacteria that exists there. And there's a reason for it, right? That's supposed to be living on there. So typically, if the average Joe starts using these heavy antibacterials or the Hibiclens, you're killing off that good flora. Okay. Now, are there cases where some amputees have to use it? Yes. But for me, it's more that the dermatologist needs to be the one to make that recommendation. If it's a case of somebody who has a history of MRSA, if there's a case of somebody who has repetitive infections, right? And they're having a hard time getting that under control. But guys, keep in mind things like Hibiclens. I know it's available over the counter, but that's the stuff they use when you go to the OR. When you go to the operating room and they tell you to clean yourself head to toe with this stuff before you have surgery. I mean, that's powerful, powerful stuff. Okay. A lot of chemicals in there, a lot of powerful stuff right there. So again, if you don't have that problematic skin that you can't get under control and your dermatologist recommends that, okay. But for the most part, I tend to kind of steer away from that really, really strong stuff. It is a little expensive, Susan, for the liner one. Yes, I understand it is a little expensive. That being said, if it's a product that you're interested in, I can put you in touch with the company. Sometimes they have coupons available. So if you guys want to get in touch with the company and just ask them if they have coupons available, sometimes they do. Hey there, Benny. Yeah. Okay, so there's the trial. And again, guys, the liner one was on my show a while back, and I actually haven't gotten in touch with them in a while. I have to reach back out to them. Good people, good company, love working with them. So I don't know if their prices have changed. It sounds like it may have changed a bit. So again, email the company and just ask if they have any coupons available. Let's see. Randy says, does the lotion work or address itching? I have an intense itching when I take my liner off in the evening every day. Okay. When I hear itching, there's a couple of things that come to mind. It could be something as simple as a heat rash, right? And something that you want to kind of get under control versus something like fungal, right? So you want to find out what is the nature of the itching. This is not meant to address. It's not antifungal. It's not meant to address itching. So again, Randy, you might want to look at how you're cleaning your liner. Again, a lot of my well-meaning patients will sometimes be so vigorous with their cleansing of the liner that the soap is so heavy and it leaves a residue, and that will definitely cause itching. I had one guy, one of my first guy years ago that came in, and his entire residual limb was just a red blooming rash. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did you do? And I remember calling the prosthetist, and the prosthetist started laughing and told him, you gotta rinse that liner. And sure enough, I stuck my finger in the liner and went like this, and it was just a white film residue from the soap. So that's usually a big culprit right there, is making sure that you've rinsed out all the soap. And then Randy, again, if it's something that's an ongoing problem, go have a dermatologist lay eyes on it, and just for them to help you identify what it is and what it's not. If it's bacterial, you don't want to treat it like a fungus. If it's a fungus, you don't want to treat it like a bacteria. Okay, so you got to get the right treatment for the right thing. And for that, you need to know what you're looking at. Eric says you can ask your prosthetist place for the post for your liner. There's a lot of different hacks on how to get the liner to dry. The biggest thing is you don't want the inside of the liner. You don't want to dry it with a towel because it gets all the lint stuck on that. Some of my beginners, unfortunately, they try that and they learn that the hard way. And then just, dust particles in the air and things like that. And you just want it to dry nice and evenly. Brenda says, I'm covered with grafts, all done to save my knees. So you do have an extenuating circumstance, Brenda, right there. As far as with the grafts, this liquid to powder, really wonderful. Really love it. I worked in a burn trauma unit for many years down in Miami. And I know that it was interesting. We used a lot of cocoa butter with our healed grafts. But unfortunately, when you put a liner on top of a limb with cocoa butter, it just goes slipping right off. So we couldn't use it for that. But I'm glad you found a solution, Brenda. There goes Harsh. Harsh says, best is cocoa butter or coconut if not allergic. Yeah. So again, cocoa butter and coconut oil, I love it for a nice moisturizer at nighttime when you're not wearing your prosthesis. But unfortunately, if you try to put a liner on top of that, it's like an oil slick and it'll just eventually come off. Even for folks who have, put it on the night before. And again, before I had Vital Fit products, that's what I would tell people. I would tell them sometimes to put the moisturizer on the night before to allow it time to soak in, but inevitably there's still some left on the skin. And the same thing goes for the deodorant, the antiperspirant, not deodorant, antiperspirant. Some folks, and that's an old hack from way back when, to use an antiperspirant on the residual limb to help prevent sweating. And there's some people that it works great for. And I used to make that recommendation myself a lot of times. And I still do sometimes, depending on the person, if they want to try it out. But the big thing, again, with the antiperspirant is you got to wait for that to soak into the skin. And sometimes it just doesn't work. You still have some of that residue left. I'm curious, do any of you guys use the antiperspirant trick? Put that in the comment section. I'm curious. Susan says, I use coconut oil on my stump every night and I've not had any issues at all. Good. No, I love using coconut oil as a moisturizer. I think it's a fantastic moisturizer right there. Ooh, 20% off. Yay. Okay, so Susan says, I've used the Adapt to Skin 90 to put in the invagination if I will be walking a fair bit. Okay, and her liner always comes with a stand. Yes, so Brenda says, my dermatologist was amazing. I was allergic to my own sweat. I put it off for a while and then seeing him was life-changing. It really is, guys. And guys, I've done wound care for years. I've been working with amputees for years. And there are times where I'm looking at someone's skin going, I need a dermatologist to lay eyes on this and just to identify it properly. Once it's identified, then it's okay, we know what to do to treat it. But you want to know what you're looking at because you want to get it addressed right away. And then guys, on a practical sense, I don't know about you guys, but my dermatologist is awesome, but it takes a while to get an appointment with him. So again, I recommend to people get established with a dermatologist before you need them, right? Because if you're a brand new patient and you've got this rash that's killing you, it's going to take you longer to get in as a new patient versus if you're an established patient. So that's another little life hack right there. Brenda says, before becoming an amputee, I worked in wound care, but you're right. The oil butters will become oil when you perspire. Yeah. And again, Florida, Florida, even in our winter months, guys, we can't, like, I put on lotion and I'm obviously, like I said, I'm not an amputee. I'll put lotion on my arms, which are not covered. And halfway through the day, it's like I can just kind of feel that, you know? So I can only imagine for my folks who are wearing liners and prosthetic sockets, right? Okay. Mm. Audrey says, I have a winter's gel liner now and I love it, but boy, it makes my legs sweat and I have to wear a liner. I've got mixed emotions on the liner. Again, if somebody tells me I use the liner, it's a game changer for me and I don't have any problems with it, I say vaya con Dios. Awesome. But I hear just as many people tell me that the liner causes blisters and chafing. And the reason is because your liner is meant to go right up against your skin, right? So when you put the liner in between your skin and the liner, that's a lot of liners, I'm saying. You're basically causing an area for friction. So I just always like to say, just be careful with that. Mark is saying, in PowerFest in early June down here in Florida, everyone should attend. So yeah, let me talk about that real quick. So Hanger is doing their massive PowerFest. It is the first week of June. I will be going for the first time this year, and I am so excited. There's a few of you there that I saw on the roster that I might get a chance to work with. If you are going to the EmpowerFest, send me a message. Let me know. We'll see if we can somehow coordinate an activity together. And I'd love to meet. I love meeting you guys in person. And same thing with the Amputee Coalition National Conference. I will be going with College Park this year once again, and I'm so excited because they are a lot of fun to hang out with. So if you are going to the AC conference in Atlanta, give me a heads up and let me know. Beth says, get a skin check every year, and she does a thorough job of checking out my residual limb. That's it. Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Castor oil. Yes, castor oil is another really great moisturizer. But again, that's one of those like, whoo, if you put your liner on and there's just even a little bit of castor oil on, you're going to go slipping and sliding all over the place. So yeah. Yeah, so Brenda, she says, I'm a bilateral amputee and perspire like crazy. I've tried silver socks and chafing and blisters happen. Yeah. And again, I've heard half and half with the liner. I've heard just as many people say it was a game changer for them. And the other people said it was, with the blisters. So Brenda, I'm very curious. I know, so, as a bilateral, you might sweat more because again, you have that much less surface area to sweat from. So I'm wondering, has your dermatologist ever brought up the idea of Botox, using Botox, out of curiosity? I know some people have used it and have had success with that. Looking forward to seeing you too, Mark. Although if you tell me you're not going to be in an activity because of a basketball game, Mita, we're going to have problems. We're going to have problems. Beth, oh good, you're going to be there. Yes, Kevin Carroll is still with Hanger, and I got a name drop for a minute, guys. I got to hang out with Kevin Carroll at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium with my family a couple of weeks back, and I can't believe it's been a week ago, and I can't believe I haven't posted pictures about that yet. So it was wonderful. I won an auction that Hanger did for a fundraiser, and the auction prize was to get a tour with Kevin Carroll at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium with my kids. Coolest experience ever. And he is just probably one of the most kind-hearted, humble, amazing human beings I have ever met, on top of being an absolutely brilliant prosthetist. Can't say enough nice things. Let's see. Oh, good, Jen, you're going to be there too. Wonderful. Linda says, I swear by Botox for preventing sweat. Good. Let's see. Audrey says, never had an issue with previous liners, but without the liner, I can literally pour out 2 tablespoons of sweat when I take off winter's gel liner. Why does the liner cause so much sweating? Well, again, it's just some materials are just going to be more prone to sweating. I like winter's gel because I think it's just really nice and soft. Speaking of Kevin Carroll, right? He created that, along with Dan Strzemka. But some people do tell me that they sweat more with the winter's gel. So Audrey, it could be that you might want to ask your prosthetist either about a silicone liner, that's usually the most friendly one for most skin types, or a gel liner as well. Mark, I don't want to hear it. I don't care if Charles Barkley is inviting you for a one-on-one on basketball game. You need to go to EmpowerFest, and I don't want to hear it. All I'm saying. All right, guys, let's get back to these questions. This was a really interesting question. I don't often get a lot of pediatric questions. This one was from Mushmita. She says, I have a preschool student who is a bilateral below the knee and bilateral hand amputee. He has a wheelchair and has started to use the prosthesis, but his best go-to is to get around on his knees doing the knee walking. How safe is it for him to get around on his knees around the school? He is cognitively low, so cognitively impaired. Will get around on his knees affect his ability to use prosthesis in the long run or damage to his knees in the long run? So when it comes to kids, I worked with pediatrics. I have quite a few kids of my own, so pediatrics is something near and dear to me as well. Um, what I've observed is children are just amazing. They're resilient, right? This young child is a quadrilateral amputee, and he's probably getting around better than some of the unilateral amputees that we see who are adults, right? Children find a way. They want to play, they want to grow, they want to be active, and they will find a way. And as a clinician, you want to encourage that, right? You want to encourage that child to participate as much as they can in as many different activities and to help with their development socially and physically. But there is that component of not wanting to cause damage and to looking down the road at the child's future as an adult. So encouraging the use of prosthetic devices, especially if you can kind of predict that in the future they will be prosthetic users, to try to encourage that as much as you can. And yes, a big part of that is to preserve the integrity of their knees. I know the first person that comes to my mind is Haven Shepherd. She was on my show years ago. Haven Shepherd is a beautiful, beautiful young lady. She was 17 when she came on my show, and now she's like in her 20s, incredible. So she's a bilateral below the knee amputee. She became one when she was 18 months old during a bombing accident in Vietnam where she was born. And she told me she's now a Paralympic swimmer. So she was in the previous Paralympics. She's going to go again this year, hopefully not this year, 2024. Yeah, I've lost track. She's competing in the Paralympics in swimming, right? An amazing young lady. But she said those first few years of her life, she refused to wear prosthetic devices. She got around on her knees. So down the line, can that cause issues and problems? Yeah. Big ones there, big problems with the knees. So as clinicians, you got to try to encourage the use of prosthetic devices with children. And a lot of times it's encouraging playtime and doing a wearing schedule, even if it's just a few minutes every day to get the child used to wearing liners and sockets, which again, it is cumbersome for a child, especially when they can get around so easily scooting themselves around. But children, even those who have cognitive impairments, it's amazing how resilient they are and how they can learn these skills. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, lots of comments are coming in. Yeah, Mark's like, Kevin is the best. He really is. Brenda says, not yet on the Botox. I was told I won the award for sweatiest legs ever. Oh, it's improved with time. When I first met him, he thought I was at the ACA for my hand, which is partially amputated. He could not believe I was a bilateral, and I'm a gel liner girl. I hope I get to meet you someday, Brenda. You sound really cool. Miss Shelley says, I'm new to this world. I feel dumb asking what is a liner. Do not feel dumb at all, Shelley. Half the time people on this show are bringing me new things to learn. So the liner, it's just the brand name. It's called liner, which is kind of funny when you're having to say it over and over and over again. And it's exactly that. It's just like a very thin sheath that goes on your skin that you wear it. And I believe it has like some silver in it to kind of help with the antibacterial notion. And it's supposed to kind of help with sweat. Okay. And again, some people find it to be a game changer. Other people find it to cause more problems than it solves. Dick Devers said, I tried a liner last week and what's left of my leg did not like it. Yeah. And yes, please, Shelley, do not feel shy about asking questions. That's what this whole show is for, is a place where you can ask your questions, whether they are the very basic questions or more complicated questions. I like the basic ones because they're easier for me to understand. Yeah. Hey, Van Gregory, speaking of people I'm going to be meeting at Empower Fest, man, you ready? You ready, Van Gregory? All right. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm just getting all these comments in. Okay, next. Please hold. Aha. Well, let's just do this question because it piggybacks off the skin question I just answered. Camilo says, I'm a transfemoral amputee from Mexico in the last year wearing an MAS, a Marlowe anatomical socket. And now I have excess of skin in the ischial zone. Do you have any recommendations like exercises or ointment? I'm not sure what you mean by excess of skin in the ischial zone. So the ischial zone is basically your butt area. And I think we can all agree that all of us have a little bit of excess skin there, right? So the MAS socket, it's a Marlowe anatomical socket, and I don't really hear that term a lot here in the US. I know it basically is meant to be an ischial containment. It's like a different flavor of it. So what I mean by ischial containment is that's your ischium. So it's the sit bones, right, where you sit down. And in the MAS socket and also an ischial containment socket, it does that. It contains, so the trim lines come up and it contains the ischial butt bone, and that's to provide more stability, right? So the socket trim line, Bob, you're not being very cooperative this evening. Okay, so the socket will come up and cover everything, encase everything in it. And the goal of that is to provide more stability to the limb. So again, but the problem with that is it can be very uncomfortable. People very rarely will have true ischial containment where they're really all the way in there because it can be uncomfortable. I believe with the Marlowe socket, they kind of carve out the back part to make it a little bit more comfortable. That's kind of my basic understanding of it. When it comes to the skincare and the ointment, again, liquid to powder lotion by VitalFit, that's my go-to product right there. As far as exercises are concerned, certainly working out those glutes. And for, it's one of those where the higher up your amputation, the stronger your glutes need to be. So guys, here is the website to my Strong Body program. It's got over 150 exercises for head to toe for below the knee and above the knee amputees right there. So if you haven't had a chance to go look at it, oh, I do need to make an announcement about that. Guys, the books. So I have two books. I have an above the knee book and a below the knee book that goes with the exercises that are on that program. Right now, the books are listed at $59.95, and that includes free shipping. Okay. The price of the books is going to go up June 15th. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's just that I have to do a reprint because I've run out of all the copies of my books, which is wonderful. It means you guys are using them. But the cost of printing is, oh my word, ridiculously expensive. So I have to increase the price of the books, but I'm giving you guys like 4 weeks, almost 4 weeks. So June 15th, the price of my books is going to go up. So if you've even been thinking about getting a book, go do it now, okay? Because the price is going to go up. It's still going to be worth it to get the book, but I want to give you guys a heads up. So here, I just put a QR code there. Aren't I fancy? I can do QR codes now with this program. So there's the QR code if you want to check out the video exercises, and then the books that go with the video exercises. The video exercises, they're not going to go up in price. I'm keeping those prices the same, but the book prices, they are going to go up because printing costs. Okay. All right, let's get back to the chat. Scott here. Okay, Scott put a question in and it says, new adversity. The last few weeks have brought a little knee pain to my remaining leg. At first, I was concerned that my remaining leg was atrophying in some manner. And the printing here got a little squidgy. PT nailed down the culprit. Stage 1 of ACL plus PCL plus a little bit of patella. I've been relying on this leg through stroke and amputation. I'd almost taken its continued well-being for granted. My body has informed me differently. Okay. Biofreeze massaging and ACL, PCL stretches have been again to regenerate my reliance on the remaining leg. My question is, have you experienced this little setback before, and what's the best way to mitigate now and in the future? Okay. So let's talk about your anterior cruciate ligament and your posterior cruciate ligament. Say that fast 3 times, right? It's the two really big, juicy ligaments that are holding your knee together. Right? So your femur is attached to your tibia through those two big juicy ligaments. And it's kind of cool. If you look at an anatomical dissection, they do a little crisscross like this, and they really are crisscross. And they're about, well, maybe not as big as thick as my fingers, but they're really big, juicy ligaments, right? And then you have supporting ligaments on the side and things like that, right? But those are the two big hefty ones. Those are the ones that you want to take care of. So if your physical therapist has identified that there's something going on there with those ligaments, then yeah, you want to take care of that and nip that in the bud. Now, depending on what the injury is, does your therapist think that you have laxity? And maybe some people are just naturally lax, and the therapist can do certain movements in your knee to figure out if you're lax or not. In which case you might be more prone to hypermobility. Some people call that double jointed. So it might mean that your knee joint is not as stable, right? So strengthening. That's the biggest thing right there. You've got to strengthen. And when you think you're done, you strengthen some more. And I don't mean like super intense strengthening. I'm just talking about good, solid, basic strengthening that you do 2 to 3 times a week. Again, addressing the glutes, hamstrings, quads. Okay, even if you're a below the knee amputee, well, you would be if you're, we're talking about the sound leg. So you would have your entire leg intact, addressing the lower leg calf muscles as well. Okay, a lot of times people will focus on strengthening the residual limb, which is wonderful, right? But we also want to focus on that sound limb. That sound limb is taking the majority of the weight. It's taking the brunt of the force and more of the abuse, and we want to take care of it. Yes? Okay. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that plug right there. He says, Strong Body really works. Get the book. Yes. And get the videos, guys. The videos, I love the book. I was actually reading it yesterday. I hadn't read it in a while. I was reading through it. I was like, oh, this is a wonderful book. But I love the videos because it's something when you can see another amputee doing the exercises. And even for me, like I said, I've been doing this for over 23 years. And I'll sometimes be in the clinic trying to teach my patient the exercise and the positioning and how to activate. And sometimes it's just not jiving. And I show them the video of my Strong Body video, and I'll show them, this is the exercise. This is how they do it. And it clicks because you're seeing somebody else who looks like you modifying and doing that exercise. Make sense? So that's kind of why I'm a big fan of that. All right. So, that just popped up out of nowhere. Sorry. I am clicking way too many buttons right now. Okay. Van Gregory, that's good. Just came off, 8-day cruise and haven't done anything since. Well, Van Gregory, I've had to put myself on hold for 3 months without running, and I just started now that the weather is like, 99 degrees out this morning when I went running. So yeah, I'll be taking it nice and slow at that race. Sherry says, I'm getting a BK book for my sister. Oh, wonderful, Sherry. Great. Looking for the QR code. I just put it up here. It's right there up in the corner right there. Shelly says, finally got my leg guy to listen to me that the suction leg was not working. Talked to him into letting me try a pin lock style. Love it and can finally walk. Have a funny gait, but only had it for a week. Hard to get them to listen to you. Sometimes, yeah. And I'm guilty of that sometimes. Sometimes my patients will come to me and say, but, and I'm not listening. And that happens because I'm human. And, for the most part, sometimes that'll just happen to clinicians. I've learned over the years to listen better, and my patients will tell me what it is that they need, and to learn to compromise, especially if I feel strongly about a particular course or particular strategy of treatment. And at the very least, what I can do if I feel strongly about something is explain it as best as I can to my patients and saying, this is why I'm really insisting on this, or this is why I'm kind of resistant to try this with you. And at least give them the information to hopefully help them understand, and then, come to a compromise. Let's see. Oh, Jerry Ann, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Wonderful. All right. Actually, Ronnie, we got a prosthetist on board, so I'm going to have him chime in on this question. I had Jacob from Australia. He sent me in a question months ago, and unfortunately, he sent it to one of the platforms that I don't normally check. So I do apologize, Jacob. I sent him a message back and responding back to him. But he is a bilateral AK, younger man, and says is very active. And he was wondering what kind of prosthetic foot he should be looking for. Like, what are the general guidelines? So he's listened to my podcast. And guys, can I take a moment to do a shameless plug on my, and I'm plugging a lot of things tonight between my books and the video programs and now my podcast, but I'm really proud of this podcast. It's on every major podcast channel. So all the different ones out there, it's there. I listen to Apple and Spotify. Those are the ones that I listen to. So anyways, go to Cosi Talks on the podcast. I have done special episodes that are only on the podcast. And one of them is how to choose a prosthetic foot. And then the other one is the 10 best, or the everything you need to know about prosthetic feet. And in it, I talk about the different classifications of prosthetic feet. So sometimes people will ask me, well, what about the Ottobock this, or the Oster that, or the Proflex this, or this and that, that, and for me, yes, I know some of the feet out there and some of their names, but the names really don't tell me much about the foot. For me, I like to read the specifications on the foot and say, okay, what kind of a foot am I looking at? Am I looking at a foot that is multi-axial, dynamic response, energy storing, a hybrid foot where it combines a little bit of a different things? Does it have torsion, right? I'm looking at what the foot was built to do, right? And that's how you need to approach prosthetic feet and prosthetic knees, which we're going to get to that one in a minute. Okay. So you need to understand, what is the function of the foot? What is it meant to do? And what is it in your lifestyle that you want to do? So to pair up the two properly. So here's what I mean. So for this young man, he's a bilateral AK. So the first thing that comes to mind is you want something that's going to be stable, even in my folks that are very young and active. Okay. And I think back to someone like Reggie Showers. He's a bilateral below the knee amputee. He's been on my show more times than I've been on my show, right? He's an incredibly active individual. We're talking like running marathons, trekking across Africa, world champion motorcycle racer, right? And for him, he has said that he likes a foot that's a little bit more stable, specifically one that does not have as much torsion. Okay. So these are things when I think about for a bilateral above the knee amputee, is something that's just a little bit more stable, maybe not as much torsion to start off with right there. Okay. Let's see. Ronnie says feet that are very flexible, like the fiberglass rush foot, provide much movement for proper bilateral control. So again, and the thing is to look through the different classifications of feet and see what they're meant to do, and then have that conversation with your prosthetist and your physical therapist, and to trial out more than one foot. That's the thing that I'm really a stickler about, and it drives me bonkers when someone comes to me and says, oh, my prosthetist just gave me one foot and they said, this is my foot, without asking me questions about the kind of lifestyle that I have, the kind of goals that I have for my mobility, or letting me try out more than one foot. So those are just like the quick caveats. If you want more details on that, guys, go listen to the podcast. It's actually 2 podcasts where I dedicate just to the choosing of prosthetic feet. All right, guys. And that being said, next week, by the way, so I talk a lot about how to choose prosthetic feet, but I'm going to do a show on how to choose a prosthetic knee, all the different classifications of prosthetic knees. I am doing that next week with College Park. They are launching their first microprocessor knee. It's called the Icon. Kind of excited about this one. Having John Cook, he's been on my show before. He's a really great prosthetist, really knowledgeable. So bring all your questions to him then, because he's going to do a better job of answering them than I am when it comes to prosthetic knees. But we are going to talk about the different classifications of prosthetic knees and what they mean. Okay, I am talked out and I'm a little bit wiped out. Not going to lie, guys. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this evening. For those of you who are new to watching the show this evening, thank you so much. And thank you for participating. I really hope I get to meet some of you in the future, whether it's at EmpowerFest or Amputee National Conference. Hope to get meet you at some point. Go ahead and scan that QR code before I shut the show down. And as always, guys, I will see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.